You know it's bad when the President of the United States, Donald Trump, is pushing out tweets about how corrupt it is. I mean, think about that. President Donald Trump is pulling out tweets about how corrupt it is and how these owners look absolutely stupid or ill-advised.
Imagine waiting your entire life for one phone call, only to discover the league muted the line on purpose. That is precisely where Shedeur Sanders stood on draft night.
I spent a large amount of the last 24 hours thinking about nothing more than I was thinking about collusion.
Bright lights, cameras fixed on his grin, champagne sweating in ice buckets. Yet each time the commissioner approached the podium, a different name echoed across the screen.
Because how in the hell does 32 teams in the National Football League pass on a quarterback that was universally recognized as one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country?
Tonight, we are unpacking how a quarterback projected inside the first round free fell into the 5th, why the Sanders family is threatening a $100 million lawsuit, and what this collision of ego, power, and money means for the National Football League.
A couple teams that I won't allow him to play for. This is my profession. I know what's behind the curtain. We ain't got to get back there for me to understand what's not prominent for my son. I'm not doing it.
Buckle up, smash that subscribe button if you crave football without the corporate filter, and let's connect the dots they hope you'll ignore. Start with math. A late first-round slot in 2025 pays roughly $35 million over 4 years.
The NFL violated that by colluding with teams to influence the draft. They violated the Civil Rights Act, that it was racial discrimination, consumer protection laws, misrepresentation. I mean, this is broken down fairly well.
Pick 144, where Cleveland finally scooped him, lands at about $4.6 million. Add projected endorsements tied to draft pedigree, and you're staring at a $30 million plus haircut, enough to anchor the damages column in the legal brief.
If the NFL teams colluded, if they all got together and connected with each other on a call and was like, hey, I'm not going to draft this Sanders kid until the 5th round. Let's let him wait a little bit. He's a little too cocky. Yes, that would be a violation of the Sherman Act.
The Sanders camp argues that cash was stolen, not lost, and they claim to have receipts. Enter the back channel chatter. Multiple outlets say they have seen private emails between at least 3 ownership groups dated the week of the draft. One flagged Shedeur as too much prime brand, not enough team control.
Let me take you behind the veil. The NFL is not sitting there caring enough about Shedeur Sanders to teach him a lesson. They like, dog, it's simple as this. The way you act doesn't justify what our grade is. Our grade is lower than your swag.
Pass unless desperate. If authentic, that single sentence breaches collusion territory, the same legal minefield that cost Major League Baseball hundreds of millions after the 80s free agency scandal.
You're not going to change the mind of any general manager. You're not going to change the mind of any coach. No, but you know who you're going to affect? You're going to affect the owner. And that one dynamic gets so overlooked in this.
Yeah.
Now, critics insist Shedeur helped tank his own stock. He skipped Senior Bowl week, declined combine drills, and according to leaks, bristled when coaches queued up his worst plays on film.
This is where your grade need to be or higher if you're gonna be this swaggy. Your grade was here. We don't mess with that. Nope.
One story has him turning to a quarterback's coach and muttering, "Maybe I'm not the guy for you," before leaving the room. Layer on Deion's public vow to dictate terms, like Eli Manning in 2004, and you can almost hear billionaire egos grinding their teeth. But here's the twist. 48 hours before the draft, betting markets suspended action on Shedeur's spot after odds swung violently.
You're drafting employees. That's all these teams are doing. They're drafting employees. Did you notice the 2 players in the first round that moved up about 10 spots?
Simultaneously, anonymous scouts flooded social media, calling him uncoachable and entitled. That synchronized narrative pivot is now Exhibit A, a coordinated smear meant to poison a player's stock. The forthcoming complaint argues the league sent a united message. You don't choose us, we choose you. Cleveland seized the bargain in round 5, praising their good fortune with Cheshire grins. Rival executives were stunned. One text chain simply read, "We just gift-wrapped the Browns on a kicker's contract." If Discovery uncovers even a whisper of coordinated tank talk, that emoji could become a courtroom grenade. Step back, And you see the bigger battlefield, Deion Sanders versus the establishment. Coach Prime transformed a forgotten Colorado program into headline cocaine for national media without touching the playoff picture. The NFL loves spectacle, but only the spectacle it controls. A Prime-powered brand dictating Sunday destinations unsettles owners who paid billions for exclusive steering wheels. Legal insiders believe the lawsuit will file in federal court within weeks. Discovery could pry open owner group chats, scouting Slack logs, and even media emails coordinating pundit talking points. If collusion surfaces, settlement numbers may dwarf the Kaepernick grievance, because this time, the damages are concrete. A precise slot, a precise contract, a precise endorsement delta. Yet the league is not blinking, at least not publicly. One unnamed AFC executive reportedly scoffed, "If they sue, the kid will never start a game." That threat now circulates on Brown's message boards as bulletin board fuel. Friends in the facility say the rookie shows up early, leaves late, and throws every pass with a point to prove. A motivated Shedeur could create the league's worst nightmare, a collusion plaintiff winning games on Monday Night Football. Where should fans land? One camp says, quit whining and play. Talent always rises. The other sees a pattern. Players who challenge the hierarchy, from Kaepernick to Lamar Jackson, face resistance until public pressure cracks the dam. Whatever side you choose, recognize that this stretch could rewrite draft protocols. If evidence shows owners meddled to depress a prospect's value, the next collective bargaining round will demand guardrails or perhaps a third-party oversight of pre-draft communication. Don't ignore the family angle. Deion built his empire on swagger and receipts. Winning this case would be the mother of all receipts and a recruiting goldmine. Picture Coach Prime in a 5-star living room saying, "The NFL tried to bury my son. We still cashed out." Parents would listen. Meanwhile, lawsuits move slower than slants. While attorneys trade motions, Shedeur must survive an AFC North gauntlet, featuring Myles Garrett in practice and TJ Watt on fall Sundays. Early stumbles will embolden critics. Early fireworks will embolden attorneys. Either outcome keeps the story aflame. Money again. Top 10 quarterbacks ink national beverage deals. 5th rounders hawk regional auto lots. That discrepancy compounds over time, exactly what the 100 million figure attempts to capture. What about the Browns? Publicly, they welcome the controversy. Privately, they're bracing for collateral damage. Every press conference will reopen conspiracy questions. Coach, did Shedeur fall because owners plotted against him? If he struggles, scouts will claim vindication. If he shines, front offices face a different reckoning. And the NFL? History says the Shield rarely loses outright, yet it despises discovery more than defeat. If owners sense email exposure is inevitable, they'll stroke a check big enough to erase the headlines, then quietly tweak policies. Remember Deflategate. Chest pounding in public, hush phone calls in private. Expect something similar. So here's your 2-minute warning. Either Shedeur's tumble was the greatest scouting whiff of the century, or it was a deliberate act to humble a family that refused to kneel. One outcome ends with analysts apologizing, the other ends with billionaire owners testifying under oath, while Deion spikes the legal football at midfield. Keep your eye on 3 timelines: the filing date, the discovery motions, and the first preseason kickoff. If the lawsuit drops before camp, headlines will overshadow roster battles. If discovery drags into October, watch for selective leaks aimed at shaping public opinion. And if, by Thanksgiving, Shedeur is starting and winning, sympathy tilts his way no matter how the courts rule. Before we sign off, drop your verdict below. If you value unfiltered gridiron drama, like the video, share it with that friend who still thinks draft order is pure meritocracy, and stay tuned, because sometimes the biggest plays happen far from the field, in courtrooms where lawyers, not linebackers, decide who really wins the game. Stay skeptical, keep your eyes on the end zone, and we'll see you next time.